Now, based upon this measurement report, the radio network controller decides about the handover and the power control. For example, if this user equipment enters the coverage area of this node B, then the radio network controller comes to know that this user equipment has entered the coverage area of this node B, because the power that it is receiving from this node B, it increases from the power that this user equipment is receiving from this node B. So then the radio network controller issues the handover command to this user equipment, and this user equipment makes handover to this node B. Now, the second decision that radio network controller makes, it is about the power control. For example, this user equipment is in this node B. Then, based upon the measurement report, the radio network controller decides that at what distance this user equipment is from the node B, and at what power this user equipment should transmit, so that it does not cause interference to the other user equipments that are using the same frequency. So this radio network controller would then send the power control commands to the node B, and the node B would then send this power control command to the user equipment, and user equipment would adjust its transmit power accordingly, not to interfere with other users that are there in its neighbors. And similarly, the radio network controller also instructs the node B about at what power this node B is going to transmit towards this user equipment. Obviously, if the user equipment is near, this node B needs to transmit at a lower power towards this user equipment. And if this user equipment is at the edge of the cell, then this node B needs to transmit at the higher power. So at what power this node B is going to transmit, this is also decided by the radio network controller. So basically, the radio network controller manages the radio resources of the node Bs, or in other words, it controls these node Bs. And one radio network controller can control one or more node Bs. And the decisions about the handover, transmit power, all this is included in the journal term of the radio resources. And also the radio network controller is basically doing the traffic aggregation, like the traffic that it is receiving from different node Bs, it is aggregating that traffic and sending it to the core network, and the traffic that it is receiving from the core network, it is sending it to the corresponding node Bs. Now, as the part of the radio resource management, the radio network controller also decides about the admission control. For example, if this user equipment wants to make a call, then in that case, it needs to be assigned uplink and downlink channels on the air interface, and it also needs to be assigned channels on the IUB interface. So these channels are assigned by the radio network controller. And when the channels are assigned on the air or the radio interface, then for that channels, the spreading codes also need to be allocated, and those spreading codes are also allocated by the radio network controller. And similarly, the packet scheduling is also done on the radio network controller. And this packet scheduling is based upon the quality of service requirements for the different traffic types. For example, if this user equipment is making a Skype call, in that case, the quality of service requirements are different. And for example, if this user equipment wants to download some file from the internet, in that case, the quality of service requirements are different, because in the case of Skype call, the data rate is not that much high, but there are some restriction on how much delay there can be in the packets, voice packets. So, but in the case of downloading a file, there is no restriction about the delay in the packets. Rather, the priority is to have the maximum download speed. So, depending upon the quality of service requirements of the type of the traffic that this user equipment wants to use, the radio network controller schedules those packets according to the quality of service requirement. Now, another important radio resource management function of the radio network controller is the load or the congestion control. For example, this user equipment is in the coverage area of this node B and it is in a call with this node B. But there are many other user equipments that are there and which are in call with this node B. And so there is a sort of congestion in this node B. So in that case, the radio network controller can control this congestion by instructing this user equipment to make a handover to this node B. So here the radio network controller is doing the congestion control by triggering handover of the user equipments, especially those that are at the border of this node B, to the other node B, so that the traffic in the two node Bs is balanced. And if there are other users that want to make a call, they are not dropped due to the congestion.